Hi there everybody, Steve the Amateur Historian coming to you from downtown, sitting along Salmon Street here. This is actually the block that I'm sitting at right now, which is the southwest corner of Salmon and First. There used to be a business here. The Great Portland Fire of 1873 started in a building that was located right here. It's also a place where I saw Joanne Hardesty randomly while I was trying to film for that. She's a city council person, but she was just standing over here. I was like, oh. Anyway, trying to get back to my video, getting distracted by celebrity, but I'm here today to bring to you a very strange, bizarre story with a lot of mystery and honestly not a lot of information, but you should probably know by now that's kind of my forte, mystery with not a lot of information. And it's something that happened right here along Salmon Street back in the summer of 1970. One of these instances where, you're walking in this big city full of people and you're just one person. You don't know what's going on in other people's lives. And you could just be any random stranger walking the streets. I hope this isn't me one day, but who knows. And you could just be walking down any stretch of road, like say Salmon right up here between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. And you could stumble onto something that you don't only not expect to stumble onto, but you don't even know what's going on in that matter. And that's what this story is going to be like. So it's July 3rd, 1970. It's about 6 a.m. early in the day. And there's a Broadway cab driver perusing the streets, probably going in either up or down Salmon Street here, looking for a fare, going to get one, who knows. But it's 6 a.m. and kind of like this spot right now, there's not really a lot of people out walking around. So this cab driver is the only guy that's going through the area, and he sees something at least unnerving that occurred on Salmon between 2nd and 3rd, and I'm crossing 2nd now, 3rd being the next stop down here. And back in 1970, here on this still empty lot right here is where the Lotus would have been. It's kind of a beloved structure that eventually got torn down. And I know there was a hotel right here. I want to say it was the Hotel Lenox. It may have also been the Hamilton Hotel. So that's more what would have been here at this time, all of which is gone. But as the Broadway cab driver is passing through this block, he suddenly sees a guy. He just seems to kind of appear out of nowhere. And this guy is named Leroy David Flisram, who is a 48-year-old man. And while the cab driver was in this area, he sees Flisram just appear out of nowhere. And he had a car parked on this block. So either parked right in front of me or right across the way there. I'm not certain exactly on that. And one thing the cab driver notices immediately is that Flisram is stumbling, almost incoherent, like he can barely stay on his feet, and his face is covered in blood. Now, because there's not a lot of information available on this case, I don't know what direction he came from. I don't know if he came around the corner here, if he came around the corner from here, if he came from the area of the Lotus, or maybe Lonsdale Square, which is right around the corner. I'm not sure where Flisram came from. That might be pertinent information to at least know where he was at before he was seen by the cab driver. And it looks like he's just had the crap beaten out of him. He's got blood all over his face, probably some blood smeared on his shirt. And he just stumbles across Salmon Street here, near 2nd Avenue at least. And he just kind of stumbles to his car, can barely make it. He makes it to his vehicle and he just kind of sits down inside. He's probably understandably wiped out. And the cab driver's just bewildered by this. Like, where the hell did this guy come from? And what the hell just happened to him? And fortunately, the cab driver paid enough attention to Flisram's kind of actions, probably was at least mildly concerned about this guy. Like, you know, when you see some guy like across town and he's just kind of just disoriented. He's like, hey, you need some help, buddy? Something like that. And so he stays around here like long enough to notice that, you know, once the guy gets into his car over here, that he just sits down and then just faints, just passes out in his seat. Probably blood loss related, I would think. And also could possibly be from the effects of what he had experienced. I just crossed the street because it was kind of a sketchy looking guy. I came around the corner, but yeah, this is you're looking at pretty much the basement of the old Lotus and the old tunnels where they probably used to deliver stuff to the place. I don't know, maybe Flisram was in here. But authorities felt the most likely scenario that had happened, the reason he had blood all over his face was that he was probably struck with a blunt instrument. It was believed he was probably struck by like a steel pipe of some kind. What were the circumstances that brought that around? Did he have, was he in bad with some people? Was it a random attack? It was early in the day, probably pre 6 a.m. There's not a lot of people around. If Flisram was just kind of walking down the street, he parks here, gets out of his car, goes and does something, comes back, someone sees him walking by himself and jumps him, that'd be pretty easy to do. And he did sustain a fractured skull, which would explain the blood drizzling down his face. And so the Broadway cab driver acted, when he saw him faint, he acted quickly. And Flisram was rushed to the hospital, but due to the severity of his injuries, probably, any number of things can happen in a situation like that. He could have sustained brain damage. He could have sustained too much blood loss. He never regained consciousness after he fainted in his car here. So he never woke back up, and he passed away. Probably pretty abruptly. It would surprise me if he even actually made it to the hospital before he was dead. And Flisram was one of these guys that he lived a rough life. He lived hard. He was a alcoholic who apparently was trying to fix himself up around the time of his death, but he had sustained many injuries in his life, many of them life-altering. He lost his sight in one accident. He used to work as a logger, which, of course, all manner of random injuries you can sustain working in that kind of field. So this guy had sustained numerous very severe injuries, and he just kind of lived a rough life, which, is, unfortunate though it is, as tragic as it is. His death is almost like a symbol of what his life was like. He lived hard, and it seems he died hard. And to this day, more than 50 years later, it's an unsolved murder. Nobody has any clue who attacked Leroy Flisram or why. Nobody knows. Nobody can even say for certain how close he even was to his vehicle where he was seen before he collapsed. Nobody knows when he was attacked, who attacked him. And as much as this guy led a rough life, and maybe he made some enemies along the way or just kind of became friends with some of the wrong people, it could have just been a random attack. I don't know if he was found with any money on him, if there was any evidence that he'd been robbed, if someone just banged him over the head, knocked him out and took their money and maybe didn't even realize their actions were going to lead to his death. I don't know. Nobody knows. It's just another one of these little, tiny, intriguing, forgotten mysteries that really kind of pepper the history of every major American city. When you have so many people living in a big city, when you have so many people that have lived in a big city, you have all these little mysteries. Leroy David Flisram is completely forgotten, if not for a small passage in the city of Portland's list of cold cases. Otherwise, the guy's more or less been pretty much forgotten. But it's, for all the minute details, it's another one of these cases that's just really intriguing. What happened? You know? And I knew I'd be in downtown today, and I saw that and I thought, I gotta discuss that, brief though it may be. It's just too intriguing to me. So I hope for the shortness and the lack of information, which I think it makes it more intriguing. This random cab driver just stumbles onto a guy who's just been attacked, who then passes out and presumably dies in his car. It's all just so... It's so representative of just the general sketchiness of the 1970s, which we were at the dawn of by this point. So anyway, that is the story, as far as we can tell, of Leroy David Flisram, a guy who was attacked and died at the age of 48, and we'll probably never know exactly what happened altogether. And all of that said, I'd like to thank you so much for stopping by, watching today's video. If you're new to the channel, haven't gotten around to it, whatever your situation may be, remember to give the video a like, a share, subscribe. If you like what I'm doing, that really helps me out. Also, I have a Patreon if you want to help me out that way. I'm really hoping to get that to grow, to make it easier to continue doing what I do here. The link to that Patreon is in the description with this video, as well as the links to my Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, subreddit, and my TikTok. So all that said, from downtown, thanks for watching, and this has been Steve the Amateur Historian.